Hey, I'm Jamal. I am formerly a poet, I would probably put that first, and a model and a visibility activist. And I'm based in London, but I guess like home is like everywhere I end up. Anywhere I have my suitcase is home. And I identify as, what do I identify as? I haven't actually had this question for a while. I identify as a trans masculine person who doesn't really care for gender. For me, beauty is like anything and everything. Queer, I think it has two things. I think queer as community for me is like something that feels like home and safety and an understanding that we are a collective of people whose differences are what bring us together. And I think that's really important for us to also understand in the queer community that the reason it exists is that we all live iterations and various narratives that don't all fit into the same thing. So like our difference is actually what draws us together. If I could put it into a metaphor, it's like an open door that the right people know is open and the wrong people think is shut. Like, you know, when a door is just about open. I guess that's how I could explain it. I find safe spaces in whether it's people, whether it's community, whether it's my work. I think maybe my work is my most safe space, like writing is my most safe space. And I used to think myself, and then I really struggled with my mental health last year, and I became less of a safe space for me. So I would say my work is probably the safest place that I can exist as my full, unapologetic, uncensored self. What isn't a challenge? That's really the question. I think I've navigated the world in a very like being black, being trans, being gender non-conforming as well, and like not ever reducing my masculinity or my femininity. I think that's very difficult to navigate in the world as like a trans person, but ultimately I think I can do it because I have a real sense of self. So no one can ever tell me that who I am is wrong. I think language, I think we live in the West and we live also in a very reductive world. And sometimes I say to someone that my gender is like this t-shirt. And for me, that makes sense. And for them, they're like, that makes no sense. So finding a way to articulate myself outside of words that I don't feel comfortable with in order for someone else to also be able to digest it. I think that's been one of the most difficult parts of navigating life. I try to find representation in everything. I realized that a lot of our queer heroes are not queer. I realized that not that long ago, I realized we talk about queer heroes and we're or they haven't named themselves queer. So I would say Prince is my queer hero, but Prince never called himself queer. So actually maybe that title isn't right. But I find in everything, I see myself reflected in my community, but outside of that, I see myself reflected in someone like Dennis Rodman. And everyone is but he's not queer. And I'm no, but he's not. And I think that's where the beauty is. I see myself represented in Bow Wow as Calvin Cambridge in Like Mike. That is a version of who I am. And I think queer people or marginalized people in general have to just find small reflections of themselves. It's very hard to find a mirror, but you can find these broken, fragmented pieces and make that mirror yourself. So I guess I do that. And then also things that I consume, I watch a documentary called The Aggressives, which is I say to every masculine presenting person to watch it. Or I'll find parts of myself in the L Word, or I'll find parts of myself in a magazine where there's an androgynous person and my friends and my chosen family and my peers. I think and I'm also learning to also find reflection for myself in myself and be you don't have it, so you have to become it for yourself and for other people. So I'm trying to, just look in the mirror and be like, I see myself. And that's kind of a crazy but beautiful place to be navigating at the moment. I live in a white tank like 24/7. I think it's like genuinely part of my skin now. I wear a lot of workwear. I wear a lot of like tracksuits. I wear a lot of comfort. I think it's really important. Like, I feel like I often feel uncomfortable in my body, so I try to put things on top of it which are like soft on the skin or have a hood or are oversized. And I think there's so many ways then you can, comfort yourself within the realms of the clothes. And then also, like, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, okay, I feel cunty, I want to wear a crop top and like a super big baggy trouser or like a full like two-piece. But I like clothes that have like a history. Like I like an Averex because it reminds me of something. I like wearing, fitted caps because they are a cultural significant point. So yeah, I think I change it up a lot. Like, I have so many different versions of my wardrobe that I kind of just like decide what character I want to be that day and dress accordingly to it. I seek peace. I've suddenly realized as I get older that I used to only live in chaos, mainly because I only knew how to ever live in chaos. It was kind of like the foundations of how I grew up. So I really struggle to find peace, really struggle. Like, I can be on a beach in the middle of nowhere and I'm just like, okay, let's do a jet ski and then let's do an excursion and then I find it quite hard to stop and be still. But I am slowly getting there, and I think I find peace in communicating with friends, like projects like this where you're like collaborating with people. I think I find peace in like reading. I find peace in going to like a gallery. I find peace in a lot of things that don't concern myself and are more about the environment, because I think it's so much easier to put yourself in a peaceful environment than necessarily find a way to like create peace inside of you. So yeah, I think just being creativity is part of finding my peace. And sometimes I slip into the chaos, and I love slipping into the chaos because it is part of me, and fundamentally, the chaos is what even allows me to know that the peace can be attainable. So yeah, sometimes I'm sad and I go to the club and I take part in chaos, and maybe that also brings me peace. Like, yeah. And I'm quite peaceful when I sleep. Probably the only time that I'm actually really at peace, when I'm like not conscious to be thinking about anything. And dancing, oh my God, dancing. Like, dancing is like, I forget my body, I forget what my body's meant to do, and I'm at peace then. Dancing is a really peaceful state. Younger me, I would say so much, so I'm gonna reduce it to like 3 things. Firstly, take time in everything. I think we have this idea about rushing to things, and I think a journey of something is so much more important than a destination. Go where it's warm, because cool people are cool and cold, and like warmth is what keeps you warm at night. And have fun, Like, so much of my transition or my queerness or my career, I think so many people have always tried to center pain. I think there's a lot of centering pain and sensationalizing pain and queerness. And also, there's also a space to be joyous. Like, being queer is beautiful and fun and exhilarating, and don't let anyone take that from you or make your narrative be something that doesn't include that. Just have fun. Like, life is a playground, really, isn't it, ultimately? And if you're not having fun, you're stopping yourself from so much things. And don't be scared. Like, fear is at this point, if I fear something, I know that I have to engage with it. You know, like fear stops you from doing a lot of things, and sometimes fear is not even real. Yeah.
Incredible.